Rocking around a piece of string.
Amy, why don't you do the intro? Well, okay, I guess you always do the intro.
I mean, I can.
I'll do the intro.
Great.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Is This Pinball?
Say pinball.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Is This Pinball, the only podcast brave enough to ask, is this pinball? How pinball is it? And how are you today? My name is Willie Caldwell. I'm one of the co-hosts. With me, as always, is Dylan Waite and Amy Langer. Say hello.
Hello.
All right. So, who's brought a pinball table for us to review? Huh?
I brought one.
Amy brought one.
All right,
I
Amy.
brought one.
Go for it.
I'm kicking it off. This week I am bringing Pokemon Pinball for the Game Boy Color, which after last week's episode I did order, and it arrived a few days later thanks to the magic of eBay. And I managed to get my Game Boy Color's buttons to not be as sticky as they were, and I played that sucker. So Pokemon Pinball has two tables, so it has a red and a blue version, as there are red and blue original Pokemon games, and each one is slightly different, but both of them are pretty basic in what is actually on the table. So it really kind of does away with a lot of like what I view as like traditional like bells and whistles of pinball tables. So the one I've been playing the most is the red table. And there are a couple of Doug trios that you can hit. There are a bunch, there's a bell sprout that you can try and shoot into that will allow you to catch Pokemon. So basically the way that the pinball table works is that your stated goal is to try and catch Pokemon through playing pinball. So you play pinball, you hit certain things. I have not been able to figure out what the actual steps I need to do in order to get to the Pokemon capture stage are, because they seem to vary every time. The only thing that seems to be consistent is that at some point I need to get the ball into the bell sprout, and then I will have a Pokemon made available to me to capture. The way you capture it is by hitting certain parts of the table until it says, hey, now you can capture it, and then hitting the ball, which conveniently is a Pokeball, at the pictured Pokemon in the center of the table. And so as you progress, you get, of course, more and more rare Pokemon. So you start out with Spearows and oh my god, I realize I only ever read Pokemon names, and the thought of saying them all out loud now is giving me a lot of anxiety.
Please do. I can't wait to hear what horrible creations your mind has arranged these letters into.
Well, the ones that look like Pokeballs but explode, are they electrodes?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
What else would they be? Electrode?
Yes.
Electrode.
In the middle. From the
Voltorb.
Okay, I used to think Blastoise was named Bloitoy. It happens. You know, it happens to the best of us.
It's hey, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Strong and wrong with Pokemon names.
The one time that looks like a rat is Rattata? Rattata?
Rattata! Second try. You got it.
Hey. Cool.
Which is different from the band.
Cool skateboarder. Rattata. So I was playing it, and I realized while playing this that I actually just might be bad at pinball. Because I could not seem to crack any of the high scores.
That hadn't occurred to you before?
I mean, I think that I just chose not to look at it directly. I think I just chose to imagine that I was actually secretly very good at pinball, but I just never given myself the opportunity.
Yeah.
So, in playing this, I realized that my reaction time is bad, that I have no idea how to hit the ball to get it to go where I want it to go, and instead I just kind of button mash wildly until something happens. Though I played one more time before jumping on this call with y'all, And it was the best I'd ever done. I did crack a couple of the high scores. I got up to like 250 million, and I also caught a Zapdos, which made no sense because
Hey.
I was still in Pallet Town. So, you know,
They have wings, Amy. They can travel wherever they want.
That's true. Ash in the anime saw a Ho-Oh in like right outside of Palatown, and that sucker wasn't even a thing yet.
I forgot about that. I used to
That's
watch the
true.
Pokemon TV show with the sort of attention that one would give like a murder procedural. Like
Mm-hmm.
I would watch it and be like, oh, like I'm gonna like really looking at it. I guess less murder procedural and more of a zoologist type of standpoint, like
Mm-hmm.
really
I
examining
get
when
those two
different
confused a
Pokemon
lot too.
mechanics. What's that?
I get those two confused a lot too.
I know. Listen, I had two possible career paths.
I'm either gonna kill people or kill animals. You mean?
Well, I've been trying to combine the two, like a murder procedural that just takes place at zoos, but so far it has not been picked up by anyone. But I'm still working on it. Sorry, long story short, I actually enjoyed playing this a lot, even though it made me realize things about myself, namely that I am bad at pinball that I didn't really want to acknowledge or see. Um, and also, I appreciate a way of capturing Pokemon and interacting with them in a game that doesn't involve sending them to try and murder each other. There's something very pure-hearted about just the collection of Pokemon through this, and just you know not having them fight to the death in various sports settings.
Yeah,
So, Pokemon Pinball,
you don't have to see any of them white out.
it's
You
true.
remember that? They said white out instead of blackout. I'm sorry,
Why did they say that?
because blacked out implied drinking. In the so originally it would be like if you lost all your Pokemon, it would say that you blacked out. But then I think starting in maybe Pokemon Yellow or maybe Gold and Silver, they changed it to whited out.
Really?
Yeah,
I've never noticed that before.
yeah.
What parent wrote in and was like, listen,
Oh, so
this is
many. You don't remember the Pokemon Satanic Panic of the late '90s?
I've
I
conveniently blocked it
remember.
out.
I remember
No, you
PETA
whited
being
it
up in
out.
arms about it.
The only thing I remember is of the early episodes of Pokemon that had flashing pictures that gave some kids seizures, but that's the only thing I remember. Um,
Oh, and
mostly,
kids choked on the McDonald's toys, the little Pokeballs.
Mm.
God,
What a
Pokemon
way to
this whole
go.
time. Yeah,
You know, he died how he
he
lived,
died as he lived.
obsessed over a stupid toy.
If you're not supposed to put it in your mouth, where are you supposed to put it?
Ooh, I don't know.
You
You
know.
tell me, Dylan.
No, it was a cup, and it went over his nose and his mouth and got like stuck there.
That's
Like
a
a
fun
suction
game.
cup?
I used to suction cups over my nose and mouth all the time as a kid, and I turned out
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, I only
Yeah,
had minor brain damage as a result. Just slight asphyxiation.
Slight signs of mental deterioration.
Hey, you should run for president, am I right?
Hey.
This is the classic
Hey.
Dylan Waite hard-hitting political commentary that we all come here for.
Man run for president, no speak good.
You got him, Dylan.
I
I-
got him.
Hey, Dylan. Thanks for saving democracy.
Yeah, line him up again, baby.
I loved this game as a kid. I'm so glad that you played it. I know that as an adult, like you probably won't go complete obsession into it because it's a 20-year-old piece of garbage essentially. But I'm so glad to get to talk about this game again. I do remember the two tables, red and blue. I always liked blue better because, like you were saying with red, it was sort of unclear what the conditions were to get the Pokemon to appear. But in blue,
Right.
I
Red-
think the little sprite just like crawled across the screen and you had to hit it.
Red's the one with Ekans, right?
No, red is with Ekans, I think.
That's what I said.
Oh, yeah. Amy, did you experience that on the blue table?
No, I didn't see any sprites crawling across. So the way the blue one was, and the reason I haven't done it as much is because there's like a weird like pseudo magnetized portion of the board. Also, because of the way the Game Boy Color is, you don't ever see the entire table at one time. When the ball goes
Oh
to the
yeah.
top of the screen, you see the top of the table, and then when it goes back below, you see the other half where your flippers
Right.
are. So you never actually get to see the whole thing, which is actually strangely reassuring. Like it feels like here's where we are. Like for half the table, it's completely outside of your
You
control.
feel
Like
safe.
you're just watching it happen.
When it's bouncing around up there with the little lights and bumpers, you don't have to worry about having it fall directly through the middle.
That's right. You know you're safe for at least a brief period of time.
Yeah.
But the blue table, like on the top half of the table, there's like the centralized part is gives like a magnetized effect. So when the ball goes over it, it kind of hangs out there. And there's little arrows, so it can go into like one of four subsections, which are each again relatively small. But there's like a cloister, there's a slow poke, and then there's like some little bumpers that you can hit. And every once in a while, like if you get it into like the slowpoke or the cloister, a Pokemon appears that you can capture. But again, I literally Googled this morning how play Pokemon Pinball in the hopes that there would be some manual so I could understand like what process I needed to do in order to get to certain points and aspects.
Mhm.
And it was just a text doc, and it was completely unhelpful. But it
But
did
the
remind me.
mystery is sort of that's very on brand for pinball, right?
Oh,
Where
totally.
you don't actually know the order of operations to get the outcome you want until you've sunk hours into it.
Totally. And it's not only on brand for pinball, it's also on brand for like or for Game Boy games in general. Like I know that the Game Boy games used to come with like a little booklet, so you could like look through, and it usually gave you instructions on like what different buttons would do within the game. But other than that, I don't remember there being a lot of instructions. So most of the Game Boy games I remember playing, I either like bought separate like walkthrough manuals. Like I definitely had like a Pokemon Red walkthrough manual that like also showed where all the secret items were. Um, because I enjoy researching and going in fully prepared. But there's something that's really nice about just being given a game and not really knowing literally what any of the buttons do or what I'm supposed to do. Similar to only seeing half the table at once, it feels like a lot of control was I just gave up or had to give up in order to play the game. And in this day and age, it actually felt really nice to be like, well, some things are out of my control, and I'm just along for the
And
ride.
at the end of the day, you still get a Zapdos, so maybe
I
it's not that
did.
bad.
Yeah, I evolved my Charmander into a Charmeleon, and it's a good game. 5 out of 5 pinballs. I enjoyed it.
Hell
I will
yeah.
continue to play it. I give it 5 out of 5, even though I can't get the Rumble Pack on this game to work.
Oh,
So
that was my next question. You put the little battery in, and it's still nothing.
yes, still nothing. It also could be that the battery is dead, but it
Did
is
you
seems
just
more
find it in a
like
drawer?
yeah.
You don't have to buy AAA batteries. You open a drawer and then you find one, and then the little elf replenishes them while you sleep.
I never played it with the rumble feature because once the first battery died, I was a little idiot child, and it's like, how do I get a battery? Where am I supposed to get that battery from?
You have no disposable income. You can't go to the store by yourself. You're just
Oh.
Yeah,
at the
all of
whims.
my whole identity is based off commercials I accidentally saw. You know, like you were talking about Game Boy stuff, and I remember very vividly this like Spider-Man and X-Men game I had for the Game Boy. I have no idea how to play it, but I must have played it for hours, just walking around that first area, not knowing how to climb ladders, getting killed by absolutely everything,
Yeah,
not
if you're
even
a
really
child,
knowing
you
what
don't... Go ahead.
No, like you know those games where you can't quite read the screen and you're not sure what you're looking at.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was Final Fantasy VII Remake for me just the other week.
Some things are evergreen.
The text is too tiny.
No, your TV's too small.
Aw.
I mean,
Like,
starting about the last generation of consoles, I feel like they started making everything for giant ass TVs, and if you had like I've been playing a lot of older games, and PS2 games look ridiculous on a big TV because all of the text is so chunky and like smooth.
I want that.
Right. I've been trying to play the GameCube games on a big TV, and it's slightly better because I think that it was right about at the cusp of when folks were like getting huge TVs. But It still looks sad. It still looks not like it. It looks like it found its way onto there by accident and doesn't know what it's supposed to do with all the space that it's been given. Um, 5 out of 5 pinballs.
Nice.
For what? I thought we talked about this. You can't just give everything 5 out of 5 pinballs. Although I will say that Pokemon Pinball very much does deserve 5 out of 5 pinballs.
5, absolutely, out of 5 pinballs.
We can stop the podcast.
Well,
No. You stop it.
Someone plays a real pinball game, and then they rate it like a pinball game, and then the podcast self-destructs. That's the sequence.
Them's the
All
rules.
right. Who's up next?
Can I jump in here with my?
Yeah.
All right.
Dylan, what have you brought for us?
So I actually brought a sort of a pinball movie. This is a 1976 German film called Fox and His Friends, and it involves a little bit of pinball. The protagonist of the film, it was directed by Rainer Werner Fassbinder, who was an avant-garde queer German filmmaker who I happen to be a big fan of. And this movie in particular is about a guy who was the bodiless head at the carnival. Like, he would come out in like a thing and you could only see his head, and he was supposed to be disembodied. And he'd recite stuff or tell fortunes or whatever the hell he did. And then he ends up winning the lottery. And so because he's coming to money, he falls in with rich, cultured German queens, and they just bleed him dry until by the end of the film he ODs on Vicodin. It's a fun little movie, and there are 2 scenes that involve a pinball table. One of the characters plays one in one scene, and I believe a different character plays one in another scene.
Are they both playing the same pinball table, or are they playing different pinball tables?
I don't know. Fassbinder does a lot of shots that don't seem to be literally what's happening, but rather are
allegorical.
Spatial represent. Yeah, so they're walking, and then they're outside, and they're in this big sort of concrete raised level with steps going down, and there's a pinball table there, and so one of them's playing it while the other 2 pose theatrically on the steps, and that maybe that's the same pinball machine. I don't know. I don't know even where they were, but it looked beautiful. So
what year did this movie come out?
Yeah, it's a good one. It's there's a lot of themes in it. It's actually it's pretty Marxist actually in its politics, because there's a lot about he starts off as a body.
Amy, can you hear Dylan?
I can hear some of it, but it's definitely cutting in and out.
Yeah, Dylan, you're cutting in and out pretty much through all of that.
In and out
I couldn't really
Discord?
Understand any of that coherently.
Any of it? None of it at all?
No, I got 75% of it, but
I got more 60%.
60%? Anyway, my point is this.
I don't know if
It
we should do
starts
it
as
again, because I don't have anything written on
Okay, do you want me to start over? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
What should we do? What do we do with this?
I don't know. Sorry for trying to go
And did you know Taming of the Shrew has a sequel?
the getting more tamed, getting tamer.
No, Kate's dead in the sequel.
What?
She's dead, and Petruchio is remarried. It's called The Tamer Tamed.
Oh, I do know about this.
What's what's crazy is like in the 16 teens there was like a rash of like sort of proto feminist or like feminist plays that were all bonkers, but some of them were pretty good. There was a lot of like women wearing pants
Yeah.
and that like scandalizing people.
Was this
And
a
like the
component of it? Was the second one an attempt to be, I mean, I guess at the time more equitable? What was the intention for it? Was it just like the first one
oh
was
it's straight up like, well, cuz you're familiar with
yeah,
the first one, right?
yes.
Yeah, so basically Petruchio gets remarried and his wife on the day of their wedding knows his reputation as this like tamer of the cursed woman. And so she locks herself in their house and is like, "You'll come up when I say you're going to come up." And then like all these women from around the like kingdom start like hauling ass over to, I guess, Verona where he lives to like join up with his wife who's like staging a like women's movement. It's kind of like Lysistrata, and then the other part is just like bad. But yeah, I don't know. It's fucking weird. And then the Roaring Girl is about a woman who wears pants and goes to the theater, and there's this part where a guy's like, "I'm a fuxia," and she's like, "All right, meet me at this place at this time," and he shows up and she just whips out a sword and is like, "Who the fuck do you think you are?" And there were like all of these plays that were re-examining women's place in society. I mean, they were all written by men,
Right.
but like they were all coming out and like both the Roaring Girl and the Tamer Tamed is like 1611 is the most probable date. It's
Why do you
fucking
think
weird.
that no one does the Tamer Tamed?
It's not very good.
Ah,
I mean, it's not that it's not very. It's not Shakespeare, and um Elizabethan plays and Jacobean plays that aren't Shakespeare are really hard to. They're harder to read than Shakespeare because there's a lot of like colloquial language and like street scenes. Like Middleton has a bunch of street scenes and like 5 pages of jokes about a tobacconist shop is like not what I'm trying to do.
which I'm sure killed at the time.
Oh, I'm sure, but well, also too like Fletcher, the guy that wrote The Tamer Tamed, is the one who took over the King's Men from Shakespeare,
Oh,
and he collaborated with him on Henry VIII and Two Noble Kinsmen, and then I think he was probably at the King's Men for about 10 years, and then he died of the plague. But like he was around 10 when Shakespeare started writing, so I'm developing this working theory of like Shakespeare as boomer, and
okay. Please
oh, I'm
continue.
sorry. Wait, Bea's giving me a look. That was Bea's idea. I have to say, we are developing the theory together. Oh, I've fucked up. Jesus.
You started strong, but um,
Well, because the generation after him is like 17th century woke.
uh-huh.
And so, like, while everybody else is writing these feminist plays, he's writing, like, Pericles.
Right.
And,
I mean, it, I assume that this is most generations though, wherein like you establish yourself within a certain period of time and then continue to write within that period as other people comment on the work that you've already written. Like it's the
so,
great churn of history.
yeah, except Shakespeare was doing weird shit towards the end of his career. Like, he wasn't writing, like, Hamlet 2, he was writing like Winter's Tale
Right.
and Cymbeline. And like that's what's weird is that like he went off in his own direction that's not the direction the world was going, but is also not what he was doing beforehand.
Mm. So not just retreading the same territory like in the
Yeah,
mm.
he he's not coming out with The Irishman, you know.
Uh-huh. Nice one. um
Hey, I loved it.
I didn't I didn't watch The Irishman. It seems fine. People talked about it. I don't. It's got. Sorry, brain stopped working. I think it's some water real fast.
No, because it's honest. I was reading a book, and I was reading a book about Shakespeare because I was getting bored with the book I was reading, and I was flipping through something they had bought for grad school, and I just reminded me how fun they are to read because the language is really good and exciting and interesting. And
So this
I was gonna pick one up at random, but that's always really hard to do because there's like so many choices and like
right. So actually,
I
one of
don't.
the questions I have, 'cause you had mentioned for like the plays that come out afterwards that part of the reason that they're hard to do is because there are so many like period specific references. Is
Yeah,
part of the reason that that doesn't exist in Shakespeare because like it was iterated on so much after that period that some of those were just weeded out over time, like into the ones that we do now, or even that the ones that we do now, like we can chop out sections that no longer feel as pertinent or feel like asides or no longer
yeah. I
relevant.
mean, sometimes we do that, but also I feel like his plays are a little have a grander sweep to
Mm,
them. They're not as like slice of life.
right.
Whereas like you can tell like Middleton collaborated with him on a play, Timon of Athens, and like there's so many scenes in that where you're like Middleton's doing his like everybody's at the merchant's shtick. Like he didn't have a lot of references to his contemporary England.
It makes me wonder
I
about
think
like plays written now that tend to be like very steeped in like the issue. Like I feel like most of the plays that I've seen that are by contemporary authors are very much in like the plays that have to prove a point type of motif,
yeah,
like the issue plays.
A Doll's House Part 2.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
that. And it's not to say that they're not like they're not ones that don't. It's not to say that they don't have value, but it does feel like they are almost immediately irrelevant. Like,
Yeah, I mean, who's trying to watch Hillary and Clinton anymore?
oh yeah,
I guess that did just come out. Well, I mean, that's the same guy that did The Doll's House too. I just like to pick on him because I think he's a fucking hack.
that's the one with Laurie Metcalf, right? It's like Laurie Metcalf and
Yeah, and
what's his name, John Lithgow,
John Lithgow.
right?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
them. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I don't. But the thing is, like, everything's so different now. Like, we don't know half of what was going on in uh back in the early 17th century, but like everything in the world, every like meal we have, every shit we take is like preserved in amber and just thrown out into the universe. So like, maybe that shit will have some resonance in a way down the line.
right, because there's more like ephemera that is no longer ephemeral, like that is just kind of preserved forever, like in the
Yeah.
great internet archive.
God, what a depressing notion.
You know?
Well, no, and so the book I was reading when I got bored was The Tale of Genji, which is like 1,000-year-old Japanese novel. And there are detailed records of who these characters could be references to, which means they're references to the 10th century. And it's like they have those details preserved in Japan. And like
That's
at the
incredible.
same time, I know, because at the same time, like in Europe, like it was Beowulf,
Right.
and then you look at Elizabethan England, and we don't know shit. We don't know where half of Johnson's plays came from, or whether like one version of Fletcher or another was like censored because the records are just gone, and like there's missing Shakespeare plays. Shakespeare had a contemporary that only has 4 extant plays.
Why?
Like,
What? So is it like plague years type stuff? Like what's or was it just like not a cultural practice in terms of preserving in the same way, like not a publishing practice?
I have no idea. But there was a plague during several of those
Right.
years.
Which is what every theater company now just wants to reference over and over in a way that feels stifling.
It's great for someone to be like, Shakespeare wrote Lear during the plague, and it's like, yeah, he was writing good shit before that
Right.
too, though. So
was just some guy who got stuck inside. He was like, "Oh, I'll write a play for the first time. Give this a shot. I'll try my hand at this."
To be fair, I'm doing that with I'm doing that with video games right now. I'm working on a stupid little RPG that is definitely a quarantine, trademark.
Is this the one that is a dating sim with Souls-like combat?
No, we're still trying to crack that nut like it's like we're physicists trying to discover.
It does feel like you put a bunch of words in a hat and picked them out, and then we're like, we'll try to make this game. But that's not to say that I also don't like it, or that I don't. Wait, I put too many negatives in there. I would I would like to play a dating sim with Souls-like combat.
Yeah, well, so do you know the game Hatful Boyfriend?
I do know that game.
So that was part of the inspiration, because that game should be fun, but it's actually a pretty straight-laced dating sim, just with pigeon avatars.
Yeah, there were some possibilities there that were not really met. I've yet to play a dating sim that I've been like super excited about. I find them all kind of tiring in the same way. Oh, actually, Ken just brought up, there is a game called what is it? It's Monster Prom, where you are a monster in a school of other monsters, and you are trying to find a monster to bring to prom. But it's not like a kind of typical dating sim format. Like, it's not like a week-long setup. It's not. Well, I guess it actually is, but basically you are trying to accumulate skill points over time that will allow you to unlock certain interactions with certain monsters. And so the combination of like kind of the traditional dating sim format without like any of like the weirdly inserted mini games, but having it like actually be like a skills based approach, makes it entertaining.
That does sound fun.
Yeah, I recommend.
Okay.
Not a well. I'm trying to think if there's any pinball element. No, I'd give it 4 out of 5 pinballs.
4 out of 5. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty high.
Yeah, it's colorful. It's
Careful, Amy. The pinball inspector just arrived.
No fun allowed. I'm here to keep us on track. And I'm going to tell you right now, 4 out of 5 pinballs is not going to fly, with it the only justification being it's colorful.
okay.
Come on.
I'll
Respect us more than that, Amy.
I was
Crying
going
out
to
loud.
slide by while you were still smoking, but that's
No.
fine. Other elements that are like pinball would be, there are certain unlockable secrets if you reach certain skill levels or certain point levels, that are not necessarily, like you hit the right things in the right amount of time in the right space, and you are able to access special things. It's pinball. 4 out of 5.
That was actually the pinball slogan when it first came out, was pinball, access special things.
I agree.
I rest my case.
Yeah. All right, you've sold me.
4 out of 5 pinballs.
Just
4
whisper
to
that
5
quietly to yourself over and over again.
That's what I do right before I go to bed. It's just to calm
Yeah.
myself down.
Oh, like those kids that grew up with YouTube and instead of saying goodnight, they say like and subscribe.
That's not real. You read that on the Daily Mail.
I don't know where I read it. I did read it on some clickbait bullshit.
Yeah, that's a fake thing. That's for old people
God, I
to
love-
just gnash their teeth at.
I love clickbait. It's so fucking tantalizing.
I used to feel ashamed for clicking on clickbait until you professed your love for it. And now if I see it and I want to click on it and then I stop myself, I think Dylan would click on this. And then I do. And I'm always disappointed. So thank you for that, I guess.
Dylan, what is it about clickbait that you enjoy so much?
I really love the lists.
Yeah?
Even the ones that make you load between items on the list, I'll do it.
I hate those.
Yeah, they're not good, but you know what? Sometimes I want to know about the 30 biggest Marvel characters I've never heard of.
Like physically big, like they're
Yeah.
just large.
No, you
Enormous.
know, like who's that Spider-Man villain that's just a rich guy in a wheel?
Oh no.
I think his name's Big Wheel. Or like there's a guy that has a camera for a head. I think his name's like Mr. Camera or
This
something.
feels
Mhm.
this feels like the late season like Sailor Moon villains as well, where you're just like you're a shoe, and I'm like it's this okay.
But it's early stuff. It's like it's from before they figured out that comics had to be like fascist sexy. So they're all like everything's goofy and stupid, and like there's this old Batman villain called the Three Devils, and it's just three guys in like like old-timey devil costumes with like the pointed goatee and the mustache.
I've seen some
and they're
images
acrobats.
of this. Yeah, they can do flips and stuff.
Yeah, they're basically like proto Daredevil, but again, minus the sex appeal.
I do like an era of superheroes that has all of the sexiness removed from it, though, where it's just some guys trying their best, you know? They're just putting on suits, going out there, and they're just trying. Mostly, like, it feels like a weird bridge between Sunday comics and the comics, like, the comic books that we have now, where it's like, do we need to put jokes in here? Are we gonna do, like, family circle bullshit? Like, just...
Yeah, Spider-Man was serialized in the newspaper. There was like a Spider-Man newspaper comic.
Really?
Yeah, and I want to see an
Yeah, he lived
adaptation
with
of that.
He lived with an orange cat and
Hated Mondays.
hated Mondays. Well, that's why Captain America has such shitty villains because, like, how do you top Hitler? Right? Like, early Cap was just him just being like, I'm just gonna beat up Nazis extra good.
Why do you think that Prince Valiant has never made the jump from Sunday comics into his own serialized comic book? I just feel like
I don't even know what that is.
I don't know what that
you don't know
is.
Prince
What is
Valiant?
that? What are you talking about?
In all the Sunday comics, you'd have all the funny ones, and then there'd be Prince Valiant, which was just like a guy. It was like a, a serialized adventure where he would always be like saving some princess or going into another adventure. It was like kingdom intrigue, and he had a bowl cut. That's all I remember about
That's
him.
not a thing. You made that up. That's a fever dream.
I think you're describing a B plot in Hagar the Horrible.
Another thing made by the French. Sorry, Dylan. Let's review your movie now.
Nah, fuck it. Je suis pinball. Let's review your thing.
All right. So the pinball table I've brought to review today is episode 11 and 12 of the original Dragon Ball series by Akira Toriyama. And I watched them last night because Dragon Ball is pretty boring and you can turn the volume down low and kind of just drift off to sleep to it. So that's nice. And I brought 2 episodes because I think that there was a lot of filler.
That's true.
And that these were probably supposed to be 1 episode, but they're not. In the first episode, you got Goku, you got Bulma, you got Oolong, Yamcha, and a little cat whose name I don't know. They have most of the Dragon Balls, but then Pilaf and a Shiba Inu dressed as a samurai, and Mai, who looks like a communist lady, they steal the Dragon Balls, except for the one that Goku has on him. And then they throw him in prison. And then a bunch of stuff happens that's pretty boring. This show, I don't know who it's for. It's sort of too boring to be for adults and way too horny to be for children. But the good thing about watching it on Hulu is that it's subtitled and they don't translate any of the horniness from Japanese. So people are just saying, like, I want to do pafu pafu on you. And I don't really know what that means, but then blood shoots out of somebody's nose. So I guess it's up to my imagination.
I do like that across the board that like in various like Japanese anime, like the way to express like holding in like your want for sex so much is to just get a nosebleed. Like there's something that's nice about the
Yeah.
consistency of that.
I wonder
You'd
where
think
that
the blood
trope
would be
comes
going
from.
in the other direction.
Heyo. uh, so they're imprisoned, and then they steal the last Dragon Ball that Goku has from him. That's on his person, but they leave the door open when they leave, so our heroes escape. And then Pilaf, who's a little gremlin, he pulls out a Casio keyboard and he starts playing it. And this Casio keyboard allows him to control a giant pinball, is how it's translated, but I think it's a pachinko ball. And so then our heroes run into a giant pachinko thing, and a big pachinko ball is chasing them all around that Pilaf is controlling by playing music. And they run all around the castle, and then they punch a lot of dogs in the face as well. We don't have to get into it. Anyway, the pinball chases them back into the cell that they were held at in the first place. So this whole episode actually amounted to nothing. There was no reason for the pinball. They could have just been in the cell the whole time. Goku then Kamehamehas the wall, but he's small and shitty, so it only blows a tiny hole where they can watch. The pig and the bat fly out of it. They summon Shenron, and then the pig wishes for a pair of panties that float down from a shooting star, and then he wears on his head. And Pilaf is mad because he wanted world domination. And that's episode 11 and 12 of the original Dragon Ball. I give it 3 out of 5 pinballs. There is an actual big pinball in it that is sort of the main villain. It is competing against itself and losing, probably, in that this is somehow the most profitable franchise on the planet. And this episode is very boring and bad. And it's competing against other things because there's so many things I could have done instead of watch this. But it won somehow, and I watched this instead. And so I think I give it, 3 out of 5 pinballs. There's not really any secrets. There's not any physical feedback or anything like that. So there it is.
Having never watched
Very cool.
a full episode of Dragon Ball in any capacity, I don't think, except for maybe like a couple of times when I was little and it was on at like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
It is fascinating to listen to you describe the plot, because it does sound like a random word generator, and
Yeah.
it's kind of fantastic. Also, the pig gets panties, which is all that I care about.
The pig gets panties, and he's probably one of the most horny characters on a children's TV show of all time. But maybe it's okay because he's a literal pig.
The pig's a recurring character?
Yeah, he's like one of the main guys at this point.
Is he just called the pig, or does he have a name?
His name is Oolong.
Like the tea?
Yeah.
Nice. Do they all have food
Yeah.
names? There's a Pilaf, there's
Yeah.
Oolong.
Goku is is rice. And then later in Z is Vegeta is vegetables. Bulma, I think, translates to panties,
Sure.
which is not great.
The seventh food
It's
group.
just, this show's really horny, you guys, and I don't know why I watch it, but I do.
I mean, everything has. It was fascinating as an adult to go back and watch like the original, or rather the subbed versions of Sailor Moon rather than the American dubbed versions, because they were entirely different shows.
Yeah.
And it was just like a beautiful difference. Like half of the plots were completely cut out for weird like English language PSAs about loving your friends and like not doing drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I really missed out on like I'm very curious about like all these things that like who is this for? Who was this originally intended for? The too serious for children or too horny for children, but also like with various things that were obviously geared towards children. Not sure.
Well, with the Sailor Moon stuff, they just cut out all of the like allusions to any of them being lesbians, right? Wasn't that a
There
thing?
was
With the,
definitely
like,
that, but the tone is completely different. Like they
mm-hmm.
make, well, I mean, she has different names, but oh my God, I think her name in the American version is Serena, but it's different in Japanese. Anyway, so Sailor Moon is like her whole thing is like she's always been a whiny and a crybaby, but they like really go into it in the American version, and they also insert random weird jokes and serious moments um, that like completely change the tone of like boss fights and like kind of major moments of like near mortality uh, by like
Yeah.
basically inserting like farts and pratfalls and whatever else they can like off screen in a way that
Th-
it's just completely different tonally.
they actually did this. So I watched Kiki's Delivery
Yeah.
Service the other day. It's a Miyazaki film, and I started on the dub, the English dub, but then it was kind of annoying. The music was like really felt really weirdly out of place, like kind of like early '90s or '80s or something. So I changed it over to the subs, but like all of my DVD copies of the Miyazaki films are pirated from China. There's like 10 on each disc. And then it's like somebody just screen printed a picture on the disc that you could peel off at their house probably. So the subtitles are still the English subtitles from the dub. And I noticed that they added so much stuff over just still shots of silence. Like Phil Hartman, who's great, obviously, who plays the cat in Kiki's Delivery Service. Like, he's just riffing and ad-libbing over so
Phil
much
Hartman
dramatic
is
silence.
Gigi in that?
Yeah, yeah.
If I remember right, the Japanese version is like relatively like soft voiced and like
Yeah.
that. I feel like there was an effort where they're like, well, we got Robin Williams for Genie, now we have to replicate that in literally every movie that crosses our path.
Yeah.
And they're like,
No, Phil Hartman is screaming goofs over the whole movie that I'm reading on subtitles when clearly nobody's talking and it's just like a quiet moment of introspection, like in the Japanese one. And then, yeah, Phil Hartman is talking about how he wants to go down to Bone Town with that other cat. Oh, and then at the end, when Kiki gets her spoilers, whatever, I don't care about that. When Kiki gets her powers back, and the Chi-Chi, the little cat, runs up, in the Japanese version, the cat doesn't say anything. Like,
right.
Kiki still can't talk to the cat at the end of the movie.
Right.
But in the English version, Phil Hartman screams, "I'm so happy you can hear me again," which is just like, yeah, these Americans, they need that.
Just give them this.
I don't know.
They need this.
Yeah. Maybe it feels sort of patronizing, and actually, you know what? I know who the original Dragon Ball is for. It's for me when I was like a horny child at like 11 or 12, because I used to read that manga and be like, yeah, Bulma's got boobies. And I was still a child, so I still needed a childish story, but then they had all that horniness in there because children are horny too.
Children are horny too. Great.
What a sentiment
Amy?
for the times.
Amy Langer said it first, folks.
Yo, I don't mean to interrupt, but y'all are both cutting out super hard right now.
Yeah, do you want me to do it again?
No. I mean, that whole riff was good. That's why I didn't say anything sooner. I'm getting like 25% of what Willie's saying. I'm the one now.
This is not a bit?
No, I can't hear shit right now.
Oh, I'm sorry I mistrusted you.
What do you mean? I wish. No, that's why I waited patiently. Because I didn't want to,
Yeah. I assume you just didn't care about this at all.
No. First I was trying to pee sneakily, but I ended up missing the brewing across the entire apartment.
So we have an email account, isthispinball@gmail.com with no question mark. And I was thinking that maybe if you...
isthispinball@gmail.com is taken. I have isthispinballpodcast@gmail.com.
No, Amy. Oh,
Did you-
no. I took isthispinball@gmail.com. Yes.
Oh, no! I was like,
Oh, jeez.
well, I was unaware, and I was surprised that isthispinball@gmail.com was taken when I tried to make a new Gmail account.
It's me. I have it. And it's better.
It is a better
So-
choice.
I think that if anybody out here is listening to this and you want to email us your thoughts and feelings about pinball, suggestions for things we should take a look at, or a hate mail, send it to isthispinball@gmail.com, which is the one I will check and Amy won't. Amy, you can delete that other one.
I'm just going to keep it for myself.
And
Just
if
a
you're,
ghost of what could have been.
And if you
you're
want
trying to follow us
secrets
on Twitter,
if you hold on. If you want to send secrets just to Amy, send it to
I won't read them because I don't remember what the
Is
password
This Pinball Podcast?
I set it up. I don't know
At
where it is. I'll never
gmail.com.
look at it. But is this pinball podcast at gmail.com? It'll be especially secret because I'll never read them. Confess your
Great.
sins.
and if you want to follow us on Twitter, where we take the news of the day and say, "Hey, this isn't very pinball," go ahead to Is This Pinball.
Did you start the plug without remembering what it was?
I'm not even sure that it was right. I gotta check that.
You were doing like a lounge singer routine. Just
Let
like
me double check. Oh no, I put an E in Twitter, but not where you're thinking.
Twitter.
No, it was Twitter.
That's cute. I like that.
Yeah, we are Is This Pinball, and we're called Is This Pinball?
Great. And I guess I should shout out our theme song is by Dan Humke. It's called You, Me at Cloud City. You can find more of his music at SoundCloud/MondusMondus. Well, thanks for coming. Hope you liked it. And I'll see you later. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Nailed it.
how did it fun?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
How do I stop this? I hit the stop.
Huh?
Yeah.
Are you talking to us or are you just... What's happening? Do you? Do you have it? What do you have? Show me your hands. Oh, that answers that question of no, you were not talking to us. I can hear you talking to